Today, I'm going to be reading Chapter 4 of Ground Zero by Alan Gratz. This chapter is titled, A Clean Slate. Rashmina and her brother ran up the stairs of their village, Rashmina's thoughts racing faster than her feet. Americans were here. Rashmina had encountered Afghan National Army soldiers before. They had a base nearby and checked in occasionally with the village elders. The Americans were a different story. Rashmina had seen their helicopters flying over the valley, heard the pops and booms from their far-off gunfights with the Taliban. But in her 11 years, the Americans hadn't once come to her remote little village. Why were they here now? Like most other villages in province, Rashmina's was built into the side of a mountain. Flat land for farming was scarce, so houses were stacked one on top of the other, like a pyramid of square pieces of sweet bread. To get from the bottom of their house near the top, Rashmina and her brother had to climb a long set of switchback chairs cut into the rock. Rashmina and Bassoon turned a corner and saw a group of ANA soldiers just ahead. They looked very young, almost like teenagers. Boy men, Rashmina thought, like Darwesh and Aman, Bassoon's friends. Two of the soldiers held an old man's named Atula outside his house while other soldiers went inside. "They're searching all the houses," Rashmina whispered. But what were they looking for? As Tula started to argue with the soldiers, and Bassoon took Rashmina by the hand and pulled her along past them up the stairs. At the house just below theirs, Rashmina saw an American soldier giving instructions to a team of Afghan soldiers. The American uniform was sand-colored, unlike the green camouflage the ANA soldiers wore. He had more equipment, too, and a bigger gun. Rashmina pulled her headscarf over her face and looked away as she and Bassoon slipped by. "Did you see that?" Bassoon hissed. "Afghans are taking orders from an American in our own country." They came at last to their house, a squat square home made of mud and brick and wood. Bassoon threw open the door, and Rashmina followed him inside. There were only 3 rooms in their house: a front room where the family ate their meals, a room beyond that where women spent most of their time and where their families slept, and their tiny kitchen in the back with its cooking pit. Each room had a dirt floor with rugs on it, but no other furniture. Rashmina ran to the woman's room. Her older sister, Marzia, sat on the floor, picking the bad bits out of the bowl of uncooked rice. And their Anna, their grandmother, did needlework and sang softly to Rashmina's little brother, Zahar, who rolled around on a rug beside her. Marzia looked pretty in her pink dress and teal headscarf. Anna wore a blue and white flower print dress and a blue shawl. "The Afghan army is here," Rashmina cried. "They're searching everyone's homes." Marzia stood. "Wait, why?" "It's the Americans. They're the ones in charge," Bassoon said. "They don't need a reason." Rashmina's father came into the room on his wooden crutch. The rugged mountains of the southern Afghanistan had stolen years from their Baba, carving the lines and wrinkles of an older man into a reddish-brown face. His beard was short and bushy, more gray now than black, and he wore baggy pants, a long olive-gray tunic, and a gray turban. Someone pounded on the door. Boom, boom, boom. Rashmina's her mother, hurried out of the kitchen. Moore was clutching a gray scarf around her face. "What is it?" "Who's come?" she asked. "The army," Baba told her. I will speak to them." Bassoon followed Baba to the front door, while Rashmina waited nervously with the rest of her family. In the woman's room, a few minutes later, Rashmina heard the soldiers enter her home and begin to search the family room. She could tell that Baba had come inside with them, but not Bassoon. Rashmina couldn't make herself stop shaking. What did the soldiers want? She and her family had nothing to hide. Marzia took her hand and squeezed it, and Rashmina knew her older sister was frightened too. Baba led the Afghan soldiers into the women's room. The American soldier Rashmina had passed on the stairs was with them. He had brown skin and was short, with wide shoulders. "Baba, where is Bassoon?" Rashmina asked her father. "They're keeping him outside," Baba said. Anna continued to do her needlework, unperturbed, but Rashmina's mother snatched up a little Sahar, then pulled Rashmina and Marzia to her, like soldiers had come to take them all away from her. "Tell them we're not here to hurt them," the American soldier said in English. Despite her fear, Rashmina felt a small thrill go through her. Her English lessons had paid off. She understood what he said. "The soldiers are not here to hurt you," someone said in Passatu, and Rashmina's jaw dropped as the translation stepped out from behind the American. The translator wore tan camouflage pants, tan body armor, over a black long-sleeve shirt and a green headscarf. The translator was an Afghan woman. The Americans were told here in catch of Taliban weapons in this village. The translator told Rashmina and her family in Passatu, "The Afghan National Army is here to search your house. The American sergeant is here as an advisor." "There are no weapons here," Anna said to the translator. "No Taliban either." Rashmina was barely listening. All she could do was stare wide-eyed at the translator. All the Afghan women Rashmina knew were mothers, wives, and daughters. None of them had jobs outside of the home, especially not important jobs like a translator, where they worked and talked with men outside their families. "Who are you?" Rashmina whispered to the translator. The woman smiled. "My name is Maram. I'm from Kabul." Rashmina couldn't believe it. It was like a whole new path had appeared before her, and she hadn't known was there before. A whole new person she could become. Maram. The two Afghan soldiers searched the woman's room, and then the American soldiers sent them to search the kitchen and the goat pens. The American certainly acted like he was in charge, just as Bassoon had said. Rashmina studied the American again. This time she noticed a silly-looking stuffed animal tucked into the gear on his vest. The doll was all mouth and tongue, and long spindle arms and legs, and it had a wild, mischievous look in its eyes. It was shabby and faded and dusty, like everything else in Afghanistan, and it was coming apart at one of the seams. Rashmina frowned. Why would the American be carrying something as strange as that? And what did it mean? One of the Afghan soldiers came back into the room with a small object in his hand. Rashmina recognized it immediately. It was a toy airplane their sister Hila had bought Bassoon as a gift 2 years ago. Now that Hila was gone, the plane was Bassoon's most treasured possession in the world. "I found this in a hole, high up on the back wall of the house," the soldier said in Patsu to Maram, who translated for the American soldier. The American took the toy and returned to Rashmina's family. "Why was this hidden?" Maryam translated, and Anna laughed. "It's my grandson's. He's a boy. He's hide things." Rashmina nodded. Anna was right. Why should the soldier care about Bassoon did with the little airplane? It was none of their business. It's only a toy," Baba told the Afghan soldier. The American frowned and handed the airplane to Baba. "Tell them not to hide things from us." He told Maram in English. "It makes them look suspicious." The soldiers finished searching the house, and Baba escorted them and the American and Maram back to the front door. Rashmina pulled away from her mother and followed them. More hissed, but Rashmina's ignored her. She wanted to watch Maram hear her. Maram and the soldier stopped outside the house to speak to Baba. Rashmina saw that the Bassoon was there too. Flanked by the other ANAN soldiers, Bassoon was scrawling. His fists were clenched, and his arms were straight down at his sides. Rashmina could tell he was ready to fight. "The sergeant says that he appreciates your cooperation," Maram said to Baba and Bassoon, gesturing to the American. "He hopes we can put the past behind us and start over with a clean slate." "A clean slate?" Baba asked. "When they force their way into our homes, when they kill our people, they killed my sister Hila," Bassoon cried, glaring at the American. He turned to the Afghan soldiers. And now you betray our country by working for them?" he snapped. Rashmina's father put a hand on Bassoon's shoulder to calm him, but Bassoon shook him off. This past they speak of is our present," Baba told Maram. "Are we supposed to forget about our mothers and fathers, our sons and daughters, our brothers and sisters the Americans have killed in their attacks? If someone came along and killed a village of their people, would they say, 'Ah, well, time to start over with a clean slate'? Or would they swear revenge and promise never to forget?" Rashmina wanted to cry. She hated the idea of revenge, but she could never forget the Americans had killed her sister. Sometimes she wished they could hurt as much as she did, so they'd just understand. Miriam translated everything for the American soldier, expressing all their sorrow and frustration in English. "Tell them not to let the Taliban into their village, and we'll leave them alone," the Americans said. "Not let the Taliban in," Rashmina cried in English, not wanting for Miriam to translate it into Pashto. Baba and Bassoon couldn't understand her words, but they looked surprised that she was speaking up. "How can we stop the Taliban when you won't let us have weapons?" Rashmina asked. "You always have a choice," the American told her. "You can pick our side or their side." "That's no choice at all," Moran told the sergeant. "If these villagers side with the Americans, the Taliban will kill them. And if they side with the Taliban, you and the NAA will kill them. You're telling them to choose death." "I'm sorry," the sergeant said with a shrug. He moved on to the next house up the stairs, and the NAA soldiers followed him. Miriam took a deep breath and looked at Rashmina. "I'm sorry too," she said, and she left to join the soldiers. "What was all that about?" Bassoon asked Rashmina. The last part of the conversation had all been in English. "Nothing," Rashmina said. "Telling him would just make him angrier." "I hate them," Bassoon said as he spat on the ground. Baba went back up inside the house, and Rashmina started up the stairs. "Wait, where are you going?" Bassoon asked her. "I'm following the translator," Rashmina said. "No, you can't," said Bassoon. He grabbed her arm and glanced over his shoulder. "Bassoon, what are you doing?" Her brother was suddenly acting very strange. "Nothing," he said. "You just need to get your chores done. Come on, I'll help you sweep the floor." Now Rashmina knew something was up. Bassoon never offered to help with her chores. She pulled herself free. "Bassoon, what's going on?" Bassoon looked around wearily and then pulled Rashmina into a shadow on the stairs. "It's the Taliban," he whispered. "They started the rumor where weapons in our village to lure the soldiers here. Darwish and Aman told me yesterday. It's a trap. Rashmina and the Taliban are going to attack the soldiers on their way out of the village." That's all for today. Thank you for listening.